All right, guys, here we are, episode 8 of building the best Surly Bridge Club. In this episode, we are finally going to address the tire situation on our Bridge Club. So we've selected some tires. We're going to tell you what we picked out and why. We're going to put the tires on the bike. We're going to set it up tubeless. And then after all of that, we are going to take the bike out on a little trail ride, see how it performs on a little single track. But before we get started, there is one other topic I want to cover, and that is the future of the Surly Bridge Club project. So we do have one additional episode that we're working on, and that is a cost breakdown for this bike. We've been keeping meticulous records. We're going to break it down for you, tell you exactly what we spent on this Bridge Club, and we'll go through all of that. We'll also talk a little bit about whether it's best to take a stock bike and modify it like we did here, or whether we would have been better off building this bike from the frame up. So we'll cover all of that. And then we're pretty much done with this project, except for one other thing, and that is the color. So if you're gonna have the very best Surly Bridge Club, you really need to have the very best Surly color on that bike. So we wanna hear from you. Comment below and let us know what your favorite Surly color is. And this could be any Surly color. Doesn't have to be a Bridge Club color. It can be any color from the Surly catalog going back as far as you want to go back. What's your very favorite color? Once we get all of that feedback, we will choose a color, have our friends over at Gritty Brothers Bicycle Restoration powder coat the frame, and that will be the cherry on top. That will be the final step in getting this Bridge Club put together. So really interested in hearing your feedback. All right, without further ado, let's put the tires on this bike and let's get it out on the trail. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what tires we've chosen for this bike. And I want to thank all of you for your recommendations. In episode 7, we asked for your recommendations. We got a lot of good ones. So I'm going to read those off real quick. And I'm also going to use the YouTube handles on those to let you know who recommended them. So bear with me on that. But the first one is the Schwalbe Supermoto X, and that comes from Aunt Musta. Haven't tried those tires. I'm just not that familiar, but good recommendation. Also, JCMKK3 recommended the Rene Hurst Umptanium Ridge. I'm a huge Rene Hurst fan. I have several bikes with Rene Hurst tires on them. Absolutely love them. The next recommendation was the Surly Extraterrestrial, and that comes from Steve Mullen 1195. Another great recommendation. Got a bunch of Surly Extraterrestrials back here. We love that tire. Another recommendation comes from A-Lank Stewart, and they recommend the Continental Race King. Can't go wrong with that. Great tire. The next one was glad to see on the list, and that is Sam McClanahan 3291. They recommend the Bruce Gordon Rockin' Road. And I gotta say, I've got a soft spot in my heart for the Bruce Gordon tire. I'll do another bike with those tires in the future, so stay tuned for that. And then the last recommendation before we get to the final choice is Maxxis Ardent, and that came from Rod Jets 8208. Great tire. I have a set of those on my Tanglefoot Moonshiner. Fantastic tire. All right, so the final recommendation actually came from a couple of you. One Step AME and Onland 3 both recommended this tire, and that is the Vittoria Mezcal XC Trail. We've got it here in a 27.5 by 2.1, and I think it's going to be a great tire for this bike. It also comes in a 2.25, a 2.35, and a 2.6 width. But we wanted the narrower tire just for the type of riding that we're going to use it for. Going to do a little bike packing. We also have a lot of rail trail riding. So it's going to be fairly efficient, fairly fast, and a little bit lighter than some of the wider tires. So looking forward to seeing how they perform. We're going to take them out on a little trail once we get them set up. So stay tuned for that. So let's get them on the bike. All right, so we currently have these WTB Trail Boss tires on the back and Maxxis Ardents on the front. So mismatching tires, which I don't mind that, but we can do better. Alright, so I'm going to use this muck off tape. It's just a little over 30 millimeters wide, so I think it'll work just fine. Alright, let's trim that off. Alright, so one of the things we like about the muck off valves is the airflow system here. It really seems to work well. It doesn't clog up, and these are kind of our go-to valve stems for tubeless setup. They also have a little valve cover that comes with a valve core removal tool, which is kind of nice. It's handy to have it on the bike at all times in case you need it. Now that we got the tape on, we just poke a little hole in the valve tape back here. Make room for our valve. So we just start the hole from the outside and then widen it a little bit from this side. All right, there we go. Keep the tire label lined up with the valve core, so gotta make sure I do that. Also want to make sure I'm going in the right direction, which, all right, yes I am. Took me a minute. Definitely made that mistake too many times, putting the tires on going the wrong direction, and you gotta redo them. Also got to make sure you don't mess up the tape when you're putting on the tires. Alright, so I always start from the valve and work out, and then we'll put our sealant in on the non-valve side. Alright, so I've left just a little bit open. I'll put it on the curing stand. We'll put the sealant in and load it up with air. All right, I'm going to use this WTB sealant. We kind of go back and forth on different brands. I'm going to try this stuff out and put about 2 ounces of it in. Got an old container here I'm just going to use to, I'll do about 2.5 ounces. Yeah. So let's get it in there. Let's get the tire on the all right, tires on the wheel. Now the fun part, let's put some air in it. So for this, I'm going to remove the valve core just to get the tires seated on the rim, pump a bunch of air in it. valve core back in. All right, load it up. Put about 40 pounds in it for now, just to get that sealant moving around good in there. Tires seated perfectly the first time. Love that. Boom. I think they look great. Love the gray walls and the lettering. Beautiful tire. Took it out for a quick test ride, but let's try it out on some trails starting now. All right, so here I am in Shawnee Mission Park, doing a little trail riding. This park is known for the rockiness of the trails. They've gotten better over the years, but still a lot of rocks and roots. So most people riding in this area would be riding a mountain bike, and Bridge Club's definitely not necessarily a mountain bike, but I would consider it an all-terrain bike or a trail bike. And for these kinds of trails, absolutely perfect. You really don't need suspension. It's really agile, so I can turn it and move it and put it where I want to put it. Climb over some small rocks, roots, and just have a great time. It's absolutely perfect for this kind of trail. And I'm not flying through here. I ride at a careful pace, I would say. There's a little bit of a rock garden here. I was able to downshift into a lower gear. Man, the low gears on this bike are perfect for quick changes. Then we'll shift into a low gear to climb up something. Yeah. Another rocky, rooty section. See if I can make it up. There we go. Beautiful day. It's not too hot. The shade in here is really nice. Lots of birds, butterflies. Man, these tires feel perfect on this surface. Nice and grippy. Just drop it in lower gear. Climb up this little hill. Oh, that's a big one. There we go. No problem. Yeah. So if you're just a mountain biker and you know, you might need a mountain bike, but if you're a person like me who likes to ride
everything and occasionally likes to do a little trail riding, this bike will do it. It's not a problem at all. Obviously, I'm not going to be doing a lot of downhill. I'm not going to be hitting the Black Diamond trails, but for simple trails, riding through the woods, perfect bike for it. Love this.